Did you know that beneath the Nevada desert, there are tunnels stretching for more than 1,000 miles, carved out by the United States government, some of which have never appeared on any public map? Did you know that a single square mile of Nevada's driest terrain can hold more secrets per acre than almost any other patch of land on Earth, including active military installations, ancient lake beds, and radiation zones still glowing from tests conducted over 60 years ago? Did you know that Nevada is home to the most bombed landscape in American history, with more than 900 nuclear detonations recorded in its soil? Most people think of Nevada as a wasteland between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. They are completely wrong. Today we are diving into 32 facts about the Nevada desert that sound made up, but are absolutely disturbingly real. Buckle in. By the end of this video, you will never look at a blank map the same way again. Fact number 32. The Nevada desert is not actually a desert in the way most people imagine it. Here is the surface truth. When people say Nevada desert, they picture sand dunes, scorching heat, and emptiness. But Nevada is almost entirely covered by the Great Basin Desert, which scientists classify as a cold desert. That is the first surprise. The deeper surprise is that the Great Basin is actually a series of roughly 200 separate valleys and mountain ranges, each acting like its own isolated ecosystem. The United States Geological Survey has documented that Nevada contains more mountain ranges per square mile than any other state in the continental United States. Each of those mountain ranges catches its own weather, supports its own wildlife, and hides its own geology. So when you fly over Nevada and see what looks like empty, flat nothing, you are actually looking at one of the most geologically complex landscapes in the entire Western Hemisphere. The ground beneath your feet in Nevada is moving, stretching, cracking, and pulling apart right now, at a rate measurable by modern instruments. Nevada sits at the center of the Basin and Range Province, where the crust of the Earth is literally being pulled in opposite directions. That is not metaphorical. That is geology happening in real time. Fact number 31. Nevada was once completely underwater. Look at the surface of any rock formation in central Nevada, and you will see things that do not belong in a desert. Ancient coral, fossilized seashells, and the imprints of creatures that lived in a warm, shallow ocean approximately 250 million years ago. Scientists from the Nevada Bureau of Mines and Geology have confirmed that during the Triassic period, what is now the driest state in America was submerged beneath a tropical sea. The Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park in Nye County preserves the remains of ichthyosaurs, massive marine reptiles that were the dominant predators of that ancient ocean, right here in what is now dry desert canyon country. But here is the deeper layer. This fact means every bone-dry wash, every cracked mudflat, every alkaline playa in Nevada is essentially the ghost of an ocean floor. The desert itself is a paleontological graveyard, and most of it has never been excavated. Fact number 30. Lake Lahontan was bigger than Lake Erie. During the last ice age, which ended roughly 11,000 years ago, a massive freshwater lake called Lake Lahontan covered over 8,800 square miles of northwestern Nevada. To give you a reference point, Lake Erie, one of the 5 Great Lakes, covers approximately 9,900 square miles. So Lake Lahontan was nearly comparable to one of the largest lakes in North America. At its peak, parts of this lake were over 500 feet deep. Today, all that remains are the Pyramid Lake, Walker Lake, and a handful of smaller remnants, along with the bathtub ring geological marks on canyon walls showing exactly where the waterline once sat. When you drive through Nevada and notice those strange horizontal lines carved into hillsides hundreds of feet above the valley floor, that is the ancient shoreline of a dead lake the size of an inland sea. Fact number 29. The oldest living organism in the world might be in Nevada. In the Snake Range of eastern Nevada, near Great Basin National Park, there is a grove of bristlecone pine trees. These are not impressive-looking trees by any standard. They are gnarled, twisted, sparse-needled, and small. But one of them, a tree that scientists named Prometheus before they cut it down in 1964, was found to be approximately 4,900 years old. That made it the oldest confirmed single living organism ever discovered at that point in scientific history. A graduate student and a United States Forest Service researcher cut it down to count its rings, apparently not realizing what they had until after the fact. Today, other bristlecone pines in the region are believed to be over 5,000 years old, and their precise locations are kept secret by park officials to prevent vandalism. These trees were already ancient when the Egyptian pyramids were being built. Fact number 28. Nevada has more ghost towns than any other American state. I have personally stood in one of Nevada's ghost towns, in a place called Rhyolite, near the California border, watching the sun go down behind the ruins of a 3-story bank building and feeling something shift in the air around me. It is not easy to explain, but these places carry weight. Nevada has over 600 documented ghost towns, more than any other state in the country. Many of them boomed and busted within a single decade during the silver and gold rushes of the 1800s. Rhyolite itself went from 0 residents to 10,000 in just 3 years between 1904 and 1907, then collapsed almost completely by 1911. What makes Nevada's ghost towns unique compared to other states is the desert preservation effect. With minimal rain and almost no humidity, wooden structures, ceramic insulators, and even fabric remnants survive for over a century in relatively recognizable condition. Fact number 27. The federal government owns more than 80% of Nevada. This is a fact that floors most people when they hear it for the first time. The United States federal government controls approximately 85% of all land in Nevada, more than any other state in the nation. The Bureau of Land Management, the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, and the National Park Service collectively hold this land. Nevada residents and state legislators have been fighting about this for decades. The Sagebrush Rebellion of the 1970s and 80s was largely ignited by Nevada ranchers and politicians who argued this level of federal control was unconstitutional. The numbers are staggering. Out of Nevada's total area of approximately 110,000 square miles, the state government and private citizens together control only about 15%. Everything else belongs to Washington. For context, in Texas, the federal government controls only about 1% of the land. Fact number 26. Nevada is the most seismically active state west of California. According to data published by the Nevada Seismological Laboratory at the University of Nevada, Reno, Nevada experiences more earthquakes annually than any other state in the continental United States except California. The reason goes back to that basin and range geology mentioned earlier. The crust is being pulled apart, and that process generates constant friction and pressure release. In 1915, a magnitude 7.1 earthquake struck near Pleasant Valley, one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded in Nevada, large enough to cause ground ruptures visible from the air. In 1954, 2 major earthquakes struck within 4 minutes of each other in Dixie Valley and Fairview Peak, registering 7.2 and 6.8 respectively. The Nevada desert shakes on a regular basis. It just does not make national news because most of the affected area looks empty from the outside. All right, we are about to cross into the territory where Nevada stops being geologically interesting and starts being genuinely classified. Before we go there, if you are watching this and you are not subscribed yet, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. We post deep dive content like this every week. And trust me when I tell you that some of the facts coming up in the next few minutes are going to change the way you think about government secrecy in the United States. Subscribe. Do not miss it. Now back to the desert. Fact number 25. Area 51 is real, and it was officially acknowledged by the Central Intelligence Agency only in 2013. For decades, the United States government denied that Area 51 even existed. Then in August of 2013, a declassified Central Intelligence Agency document confirmed not just the existence of the base, but also its precise location in the Groom Lake dry lakebed in the southern Nevada desert. The facility had been operating since at least 1955 as a test site for experimental aircraft, including the Lockheed U-2 spy plane and later the SR-71 Blackbird. The base sits within the Nevada Test and Training Range, which itself is roughly the size of Connecticut. The airspace above it is restricted at all times, designated as Restricted Area 4808. What the declassified documents confirmed was that many of the UFO sightings reported over Nevada during the 1950s through 70s were actually sightings of classified American aircraft being tested at altitudes and speeds that the public did not know were possible. Fact number 24. The Nevada test site absorbed more nuclear explosions than anywhere else on Earth, except for Soviet test ranges. Between 1951 and 1992, the United States Atomic Energy Commission, and later the Department of Energy, conducted approximately 928 nuclear tests at the Nevada test site, which is now called the Nevada National Security Site. That number includes above-ground atmospheric tests and underground detonations. During the atmospheric testing era of the 1950s and early 60s, the mushroom clouds were visible from Las Vegas, about 65 miles away. Local casinos actually advertised atomic viewing parties where tourists could watch the blasts from hotel rooftops while drinking cocktails. The ground at the Nevada National Security Site is still classified as one of the most heavily contaminated pieces of land in the United States. There are craters from underground tests that are literally visible on commercial satellite imagery today. Pockmarks in the desert floor from detonations that collapsed the earth above them. Fact number 23. Downwinders were a real category of radiation victims. In the years following atmospheric nuclear testing at the Nevada test site, residents of small towns in southern Utah, northern Arizona, and eastern Nevada began experiencing unusually high rates of cancer, leukemia, and thyroid disease. These communities became known as downwinder communities, people who lived in the path of radioactive fallout that drifted northeast from test sites depending on the wind direction. The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, passed by Congress in 1990, formally acknowledged this harm and provided financial compensation to eligible claimants. Leah Haslam, a downwinder activist from Utah who spent decades fighting for recognition and compensation, described growing up in a community where cancer was so common that children referred to it as normal. Thousands of claims have been filed and paid out under this program. In 2022, Congress expanded the program to cover additional populations and geographic areas that had previously been excluded. Fact number 22. The military uses Nevada airspace as the world's largest aerial warfare training ground. The Nevada Test and Training Range, which encompasses approximately 2.9 million acres of land and 12,000 square miles of restricted airspace, is the largest overland training range in the United States. Military pilots from all branches of the American Armed Forces, as well as allied nations including the United Kingdom, Australia, and others, train here in exercises that include air-to-air combat, precision bombing simulations, and electronic warfare training. The famous Red Flag exercises conducted at Nellis Air Force Base near Las Vegas are considered the most realistic and intensive aerial combat training scenarios in the world. Pilots who participate in Red Flag are statistically far more likely to survive their first real combat engagement, which is why the program has been adopted as a model by multiple allied air forces. On any given day, the skies over the Nevada desert may contain aircraft from a dozen different nations doing things that look impossible from the ground. Fact number 21. There is an entire secret railroad system beneath the Nevada National Security Site. According to documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests and investigative reporting by journalists, including those at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the Nevada National Security Site contains an extensive network of underground tunnels and rail systems used to transport nuclear materials, personnel, and equipment between testing zones. The tunnel complex, built primarily during the Cold War, includes dedicated underground rail lines designed to move heavy equipment to underground test chambers that could be sealed and pressurized. Some of these tunnels extend for miles and are reinforced to withstand the shock waves of underground nuclear detonations. The exact extent of this underground infrastructure remains classified, but what has been confirmed through declassified Department of Energy documents suggests a subterranean world of considerable scale, operating entirely out of public sight, beneath the already restricted desert surface. Fact number 22 was about downwinders. Let us keep going. We are building towards something. Fact number 20. Nevada once experienced a locust plague of almost biblical proportions. In 1875, Mormon crickets and Rocky Mountain locusts swarmed across the Great Basin in numbers that contemporary observers described as blocking out the sun. The swarm stretched for hundreds of miles and consumed crops, stripping entire farms down to bare soil within hours. The Rocky Mountain locust, Melanoplus spreadus, was at the time one of the most numerous insects in North America, with some historical swarms estimated to contain trillions of individual insects. Within 30 years of that 1875 plague, the Rocky Mountain locust went completely and mysteriously extinct. Scientists still do not have a fully satisfying explanation for how one of the most abundant insect species in American history could vanish so quickly. Some theories involve the destruction of their breeding grounds in mountain valleys of Montana and Wyoming. The Nevada desert was one of the last places where these creatures appeared in massive numbers before they simply ceased to exist. Fact number 19. The Black Rock Desert is where land speed records go to be broken. The Black Rock Desert Playa in northern Nevada is a dry lakebed approximately 100 miles north of Reno, and it is one of the flattest, hardest, and most perfectly level surfaces on Earth. Because of these qualities, it has become the preferred location for land speed record attempts. On October 15, 1997, British Royal Air Force pilot Andy Green drove the thrust supersonic car across this desert at 763.035 miles per hour, becoming the first human being to break the sound barrier on land. To be clear about what that means, a car, on the ground, in a desert in Nevada, went faster than sound. The shockwave from the vehicle was audible to spectators standing miles away. The Black Rock Desert Playa is also the home of the annual Burning Man Festival, which temporarily makes it one of the most densely populated places in Nevada for 1 week each year. Fact number 18. Nevada's mining history created one of the largest man-made holes on Earth. The Bingham Canyon Mine is technically in Utah, but let us talk about its Nevada equivalent, the Carlin Trend, a geological formation in northern Nevada that contains one of the largest known gold deposits on the planet. The Carlin Trend was discovered in 1961 by geologist John Livermore, and it transformed Nevada into the third largest gold-producing jurisdiction in the entire world, behind only China and Australia. The open-pit mines carved into the Carlin Trend over the following decades are visible from commercial aircraft. The Gold Strike Mine and the Betze Post Mine, both operated by major multinational mining corporations in Elko County, have cumulatively removed hundreds of millions of tons of rock. Nevada currently produces approximately 70% of all gold mined in the United States. The ground beneath the Nevada desert is arguably worth more per square mile than almost any other terrain on Earth. Fact number 17. Pyramid Lake is one of the most chemically unusual bodies of water in North America. Located about 35 miles northeast of Reno on the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribes Reservation, Pyramid Lake is a remnant of ancient Lake Lahontan. What makes it extraordinary is its chemistry and its isolated ecosystem. The lake is highly alkaline and supports a species of fish called the Lahontan cutthroat trout, which is found nowhere else in its original wild form. More remarkably, Pyramid Lake contains tufa formations, tall towers of calcium carbonate that rise from the shoreline and the lake floor, created by ancient springs that once flowed through the lake bed. These formations look like something from another planet. The lake also supports the kiwi, a fish species so ancient and so unique that its genome has remained virtually unchanged for approximately 2 million years. The kiwi is federally listed as endangered and exists only in this one lake on Earth. Fact number 16. Nevada's Valley of Fire is older than the dinosaurs. The Valley of Fire State Park in southern Nevada gets its name from the red Aztec sandstone formations that glow bright crimson at sunrise and sunset, appearing to literally be on fire from a distance. But the actual age of those rocks is what is truly mind-bending. The Aztec sandstone formations in the Valley of Fire were laid down as sand dunes approximately 150 million years ago during the Jurassic period, before the first dinosaurs had even reached their evolutionary peak. The shifting color patterns in the rock layers represent different mineral compositions deposited during different geological eras. Ancient petroglyphs carved into these rocks by the basket maker people, and later the ancestral Puebloan cultures, suggest human presence in this landscape dating back to at least 3,000 years ago. The Valley of Fire sits in a place where you can look at rocks that predate the mammals and see the handprints of humans who lived 3 millennia before you. That compression of time is uniquely Nevada. Fact number 15. The Nevada desert contains one of the most controversial proposed nuclear waste disposal sites in American history. Yucca Mountain, a ridge in the Mojave Desert approximately 100 miles northwest of Las Vegas, was designated by Congress in 1987 as the sole site to be studied for America's permanent, high-level nuclear waste repository. The United States Department of Energy spent approximately $15 billion over more than 2 decades studying, drilling, and tunneling into this mountain to determine whether it could safely store nuclear waste for up to 1 million years. In 2008, the Department of Energy submitted a license application to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Then in 2010, the Obama administration abruptly withdrew federal support for the project, pulling funding and attempting to withdraw the license application, primarily as a result of political opposition from Nevada's congressional delegation. The spent nuclear fuel that Yucca Mountain was meant to store continues to sit in temporary storage at commercial nuclear power plants across the country, because Congress has never found an alternative site. Fact number 14. There is a place in Nevada where it rains, but the rain never hits the ground. This phenomenon is called virga, and it is extraordinarily common in the Nevada desert. Virga occurs when precipitation falls from clouds, but evaporates completely before reaching the surface, due to the extreme dryness and heat of the air below the cloud layer. On a clear afternoon in Nevada, you can watch what look like curtains of rain or snow hanging beneath distant clouds, clearly visible against the blue sky, trailing down toward the desert floor and then simply disappearing. The air is so dry and the temperatures so high that the water molecules are absorbed back into the atmosphere before completing their journey to the ground. Nevada has an average annual precipitation of only about 9 inches, making it the driest state in the nation. In some southern Nevada valleys, the annual average is under 4 inches. Virga is not a rare event here. It is the standard outcome of attempted rainfall. Fact number 13. The extraterrestrial highway is a real classified road with a real numbered designation. Nevada State Route 375 runs through the tiny communities of Rachel and Alamo in Lincoln County, cutting through the edge of the Nevada Test and Training Range. In 1996, the Nevada state government officially renamed it the Extraterrestrial Highway in response to the enormous number of UFO enthusiasts, journalists, and curious tourists who used it as the closest publicly accessible road to Area 51. The Little Ale Inn Diner in Rachel, Nevada, population approximately 50, became internationally famous when it appeared in virtually every news broadcast and documentary covering the surrounding classified installations. In September of 2019, what started as a Facebook joke event called Storm Area 51 attracted worldwide attention, with nearly 3 million people indicating they would attend. Law enforcement agencies, the Air Force, and local governments in Nevada mobilized significant resources in response. The town of Rachel, which normally has no motels and one diner, had to arrange emergency planning for the unexpected influx of actual attendees who did show up. Fact number 12. Nevada's Walker Lake is dying, and it is a slow-motion ecological disaster. Walker Lake, a terminal lake in the Mineral County Desert, has been shrinking for over a century due to agricultural water diversions upstream on the Walker River. Since the 1880s, the lake's surface elevation has dropped by approximately 148 feet. The lake's water has become so concentrated with dissolved minerals and salts that the dissolved oxygen levels are now critically low, making large portions of it essentially uninhabitable for fish during certain seasons. The Lahontan cutthroat trout, which once thrived in Walker Lake, has been essentially eliminated from the lake as a wild population. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service has been working with local water rights holders and state agencies to try to restore enough water flow to stabilize the lake. But the competing demands of agriculture and the legal complexity of Western water law have made progress extraordinarily slow. According to studies published by the Desert Research Institute in Reno, Walker Lake could reach a state of complete biological death within decades if current trends continue. Fact number 11. Nevada is home to the deepest alpine lake in the United States outside of Crater Lake. Lake Tahoe straddles the California-Nevada border, and while roughly 2/3 of its shoreline is in California, it is essentially a Nevada story in terms of geological origin. Lake Tahoe sits in a graben, which is a block of Earth's crust that has dropped down between two parallel fault lines, creating a basin of extraordinary depth. The maximum depth of Lake Tahoe is approximately 1,645 feet, making it the second deepest lake in the United States after Crater Lake in Oregon. The lake holds approximately 37 cubic miles of water, enough to cover the entire state of California to a depth of approximately 14 inches. What makes Lake Tahoe remarkable from a Nevada desert perspective is the contrast. Drive 2 hours east from the crystal-clear blue lake, and you are in some of the driest land in North America. The juxtaposition is extreme, and it is specifically a product of the Sierra Nevada mountain range, cutting off Pacific moisture from the interior basin. This is where Nevada stops being strange and starts being haunting. Fact number 10. The Nevada desert was used as a stand-in for the surface of the moon. In the years leading up to the Apollo missions, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration selected volcanic fields in the Nevada desert, particularly around the Nevada test site and near Lunar Crater Volcanic Field in Nye County, as training grounds for Apollo astronauts. The geology of this region, with its volcanic craters, basalt flows, and deep regolith-like surface sediment, closely mimics what scientists predicted the lunar surface would look like. Astronauts, including those who later walked on the moon, participated in geological training exercises here, learning to identify rock types and collect samples while wearing simulated spacesuits. The Lunar Crater Volcanic Field, which contains a volcanic crater approximately 400 yards across and approximately 400 feet deep, formed roughly 3,800 years ago, remains one of the youngest volcanic features in the continental United States. It is also one of the least visited national natural landmarks in the country because it sits in the middle of some of the most remote desert terrain imaginable. Fact number 9. In 1928, a catastrophic dam failure in Nevada killed dozens of people and erased an entire town from the map. The Caliente area and the surrounding regions of northeastern Nevada in the late 1800s and early 1900s were dependent on small earthen dams and water storage systems for both agriculture and human survival in a landscape where rainfall was completely insufficient for farming. On March 18, 1928, the St. Francis Dam in California failed catastrophically, but Nevada had its own dam disaster history throughout this period, with multiple earthen dam failures during intense rainfall years. More specifically to Nevada, the Schurz flooding events and multiple Walker River overflow disasters throughout the early 20th century repeatedly destroyed the infrastructure and settlements that had been painstakingly built along watercourses in a desert that punished any assumption of stability. The United States Bureau of Reclamation reports that Nevada's water infrastructure history is characterized by repeated cycles of construction and catastrophic failure, driven by the fundamental mismatch between the water demands of a growing population and the actual hydrology of the driest state in the nation. Fact number 8. Nevada has one of the most unusual demographic stories of any American state. I grew up reading about American westward expansion as a story of settlement and permanence. Nevada broke that model completely. In 1860, Nevada's non-indigenous population was approximately 6,700 people. By 1880, it had peaked at approximately 62,000. Then it collapsed. By 1900, the population had dropped to 42,000. Nevada actually lost population during a period when every other state in the Union was growing. The boom-bust cycle, driven entirely by mining, essentially depopulated entire regions. Then the legalization of casino gambling in 1931 and the construction of Hoover Dam reinvented the state's economy entirely. Las Vegas had a population of approximately 5,000 in 1930. By 2020, the Las Vegas metropolitan area had grown to approximately 2.2 million people. This is one of the most extreme demographic acceleration stories in American urban history. Fact number 7. The Nevada desert contains the largest number of wild horses of any American state. The Bureau of Land Management currently manages approximately 50,000 wild horses and burros across the western United States, and Nevada alone is home to roughly 50% of that national population, approximately 25,000 animals. These are the descendants of horses brought to North America by Spanish explorers in the 1500s, mixed with animals that escaped or were released from ranches and military service over the following centuries. The Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act of 1971 gave these animals federal protection and prohibited their capture, branding, harassment, or killing without federal authorization. The problem is that the Nevada range cannot sustainably support this many horses. The Bureau of Land Management conducts regular roundups to manage population size, which has generated intense and ongoing controversy between animal rights organizations, ranching interests, and federal land managers. These horses are simultaneously a symbol of American freedom and a genuine ecological challenge. Fact number 6. Nevada's Humboldt River disappears into the desert. The Humboldt River is the longest river entirely within Nevada, running approximately 300 miles from its headwaters in the northeastern part of the state before simply ending. It does not flow into the ocean. It does not join another river. It flows into what is called the Humboldt Sink, a shallow alkaline wetland area near Lovelock, Nevada, where the water spreads out, evaporates, and is absorbed into the desert ground. This is called a terminal river, and it is characteristic of the Great Basin's closed hydrology, meaning no water that falls in the Great Basin ever reaches the ocean under natural conditions. Every drop either evaporates or sinks into the ground. The Humboldt River was the critical lifeline of the California Trail during the gold rush era of the 1840s and 50s. Hundreds of thousands of emigrants followed it west across Nevada, traveling along its banks for weeks at a time because it was the only reliable water source in the region. Without the Humboldt River, the California gold rush would have looked completely different. Fact number 5. Nevada's desert contains active geothermal systems capable of powering cities. Nevada leads the United States in geothermal electricity generation, according to data from the United States Energy Information Administration. The same geological forces that make Nevada seismically active, the stretching crust, the deep fault lines, the volcanic history, also push superheated water and steam close enough to the surface to be captured and converted to electricity. The Steamboat Hills and Brady's Hot Springs geothermal areas near Reno and Fallon, respectively, are examples of active power generation happening right now from the Earth's internal heat. As of recent data, Nevada has approximately 800 megawatts of installed geothermal capacity, enough to power hundreds of thousands of homes. The potential is dramatically larger. The United States Geological Survey has estimated that the western United States contains enough accessible geothermal energy to theoretically power the entire country, and Nevada sits at the center of that resource. The desert that looks dead from above is burning with energy from below. Fact number 4. The most isolated tree in North America lives in the Nevada desert. In a remote stretch of the Nevada desert, a single cottonwood tree stands approximately 120 miles from the nearest other tree of any species. This tree, growing at a remote spring in the Great Basin, is documented in multiple survival and wilderness navigation guides as a genuine geographical landmark, precisely because of its impossible isolation. Trees in the desert exist wherever underground water reaches the surface, and these solitary trees at remote springs have served as navigation points for indigenous peoples, Spanish explorers, American immigrants, military surveyors, and modern hikers for hundreds of years. The cottonwood's presence in the middle of a barren landscape is both beautiful and profoundly disorienting. It means there is water. It means something survived. It means the desert is not as uniformly dead as it appears. Fact number 3. The Nevada desert contains one of the most perfectly preserved examples of an ancient inland sea environment in the world. The Tule Springs Fossil Beds National Monument, designated by Congress in December of 2014, preserves one of the richest Pleistocene-era fossil sites in North America. Located in the Las Vegas Valley, this site contains the remains of Columbian mammoths, horses, camels, giant ground sloths, American lions, and dire wolves. All animals that lived in this region between 200,000 and 12,000 years ago, when the area was covered by wetlands, springs, and small lakes fed by a wetter climate and glacial melt. The discovery of these fossils underneath what is now the northern Las Vegas suburban sprawl is one of the great scientific ironies of the American West. Less than 20 miles from the Strip, the desert is hiding the bones of creatures so large and so strange that modern paleontologists describe them as almost fantastical. An American camel, a giant ground sloth the size of a modern elephant, a mammoth standing 14 feet at the shoulder. All of them lived and died in what is now the driest desert in America, and their remains are still being found. Fact number 2. The Nevada nuclear tests changed the global atmosphere and were detectable in every country on Earth. This is not hyperbole. The atmospheric nuclear tests conducted at the Nevada test site between 1951 and 1962 released radioactive isotopes that were detected in soil samples, rainwater, and biological tissue on every inhabited continent. Carbon-14, the radioactive isotope of carbon released in abundance by nuclear explosions, spiked so dramatically in the global atmosphere during the 1950s and early 60s that scientists now use this spike as a precise dating tool. Any organic material, any wood, fabric, skin cell, or food product that formed during this period contains an elevated carbon-14 signature that is measurable and distinctive. This means that a single location in the Nevada desert, a place most Americans could not point to on a map, left a permanent chemical fingerprint in the atmosphere of the entire planet, inside the tissues of every living thing, and in the geological record, in a way that will remain detectable for thousands of years. The Nevada desert did not just change America, it changed the chemistry of Earth. Fact number 1. Nevada is the most misunderstood piece of land in the United States of America. We started this video with the idea that people think Nevada is a wasteland between two cities, and everything we have covered proves that framing completely wrong. The Nevada desert is the geological frontier where the Earth's crust is actively pulling apart. It is the bottom of an ancient ocean and the shore of a dead Ice Age sea. It is the home of the world's oldest living trees and the most isolated individual tree on the continent. It is the training ground for astronauts, the testbed of nuclear civilization, the birthplace of land speed history, the reservoir of half the wild horses in America. It is where the federal government buried its secrets underground, where radioactive fallout changed the atmosphere of the planet, where gold worth hundreds of billions of dollars waits beneath alkaline flats, where rivers die in the sand rather than reach the sea. The Nevada desert is not empty. It is the most consequential landscape in modern American history, and almost nobody talks about it. So here is my question for you. Of all 32 facts we covered today, which one genuinely surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single comment, and I want to know which one hit you hardest. Was it the nuclear fallout changing the entire planet's atmosphere? The ancient ocean? The bristlecone pines that were already ancient when the pyramids were new? Tell me. If this video made you see Nevada differently, hit that subscribe button right now. We do deep dives like this every single week into places, events, and histories that the world somehow manages to overlook. You do not want to miss what we have coming up next. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Stay curious.